Says the Ben Ish Hai, Alav Shalom. So he quotes the Gemara Shabbat Daf Lamed Gimel. We're going to speak about a bunch of Gemarot describing Gehenom, but for us, it's not supposed to make us depressed. It's supposed to make us encouraged to know, just like the man who doesn't watch his health will get sick. Therefore, we are careful to take care of ourselves. So too, when we read Gemara about Gehenom, it's meant to encourage us to take care of ourselves. As it says, the Gehenom is deepened for whoever profanes his mouth. What does this mean? What does it mean deepening? Deepening the Gehenom? So he says, the Ben Ish Hai, sometimes the souls of the Tzaddikim are led near the entrance of Gehenom in order to draw souls out. Right? Sometimes the Tzaddikim, they have to suffer not to go to Gehenom, they just have to pass by Gehenom. And the fact that they see Gehenom is already suffering. Like you see a guy who's going through a medical procedure, you say, "Woo, oh my goodness." You see the other guy go through the suffering, it's already a suffering for you. So therefore, some tzaddikim, they have to be led by Gehenom. And why are they led by Gehenom? Another purpose is in order to pull out some people in Gehenom, but when passing by Gehenom. So what happens? So when we say that someone who profanes his mouth, dirty mouth, Gehenom gets deeper for him, it means that the tzaddik, when he passes by Gehenom, right, he sees a person suffering by getting burned and from the blazing fire there. But a person whose Gehenom is deeper, he's in the deeper parts of Gehenom, he's not by the entrance. And who does the tzaddik grab? The tzaddik grabs the guys by the entrance. So a person whose Gehenom is deeper for him, it's harder for the tzaddik to pull him out. The Gemara says that the Gehenom has 7 names. Sheol, Avadon, and then there's Gehenom, there's Tafteh, and the Gemara says there's a bunch of names in Masechet Eruvin. So now the Gemara says that in the original list, Gehenom and Tafteh weren't there; it was added afterwards. So the Gemara says, so the Ben Ish Hai asks why. So he says that whenever you read the name of something, that's the essence of the item. So he says, our sages say that right, Kishmo Kahu, right? His name, and that's what his essence is. Adam Rishon, for example, he saw each animal in Gan Eden, and he gave each name to each animal, and that's the essence of the animal. So the Gemara says that there's 7 names that are the essence of Gehenom, but Gehenom and Tafteh are not. They're not the essence of the matter. That's why they were only added later. But a person has to know that it has a very important purpose. For example, the Gemara says that one of the names is Sheol. Sheol means grave, right? Yaakov Avinu said, if I lose Binyamin, you're going to put me in Sheol. You're going to put me in the grave while I'm alive. I'm going to be dead. So therefore, Sheol means the grave. Why is the name of Gehenom? So he says Sheol comes from the word Hash'alah. Hash'alah means a blown. He says to suffer properly in Gehenom, the nefesh soul needs a body. Since its own body's in the grave, so it's lent a different body in Gehenom. Sheol means borrowed. So therefore, to suffer the suffering in Gehenom, there needs some sort of a body. So if a person's lent a body and to suffer in Gehenom. The pasuk in Mishlei says, Sheva yipo sadik v'kam. The righteous man falls 7 and he rises. 7, why 7? 7 levels of Gehenom. Sometimes Sadiq falls into Gehenom in order to bring up a Jew that was in there. So therefore, sometimes you have to go all the way to the bottom, all the way to 7. So 7, Sheva Yipo Sadiq Bekam. So he says, in Gemara Sechet Rosh Hashanah, he says those of Israel and the Goyim who sin deliberately with their bodies, they go to Gehenom where they're judged for 12 months. After 12 months, their bodies are destroyed, their souls are burnt. The wind scatters them and they become ashes under the soles of the feet of the righteous. This is Gemara Daf Yud Zayin Rosh Hashanah. So what does it mean, ashes? This is all a metaphor. He says the souls of the wicked are burned in order to separate the good from the bad. Right? Just like in a refinery, the gold has to go through the refinery to get melted to separate their impurity. But if there's so much bad and it's not enough, there's so little good, so it's not enough that there remains to give them independent identity. Sometimes there's so little. Sometimes there's so little that there's nothing left for it to take. So he says, so what do we do? So he says they get added to the tzaddikim. The ashes get put under the souls of the tzaddikim, meaning they don't have enough to exist on their own, so they get added to the souls of the person's foot. Efer is also the same letters as Pe'er, which is glory. It's the Jews were meant for glory, and therefore Hashem, don't think that the ashes, Efer, is to destroy you, it's to uplift you, to give you glory, to take the good and to leave behind the bad. A person has to look at it, Gehenom, as like as a dry cleaning. You have a stain, it's very unfortunate you have a stain, you have to scrub it very hard, it's painful to the fabric to remove it, but we have to remove it. The Gemara says there are 5 1/60th, the Gemara says brachot, right? Fire here is 1/60th the fire Gehenom, right? And Shabbat is 1/60th of Gan Eden, and then sleep is 1/60th death, and dreaming is 1/60th of prophecy, right? So the fires of Gehenom are hundreds of thousands of times more powerful than the fire in this world. The Gemara says, why does it say 1/60th? It's really more than 1/60th. So he says, the Ben Ish Chai says, the Gemara is talking about because in the laws of kashrut, what happens if non-kosher falls into kosher? So you say 1/60th, right? And there's nullification, right? So the Gemara says when the fire is 1/60th of Gehenom, it means that the fire here is batel. It's batel to the fire of Gehenom. It's nothing. It's almost nothing compared to the fires of Gehenom. Okay, good. So now the Gemara says in Sechet Yuma, woe is to the Torah scholars who study Torah but have no Yirat Shamayim. And Rava said to the sages, well, please don't inherit 2 Gehenoms. What does it mean 2 Gehenoms? So the Gematria of Yirah, if you do Gematria Yirah is Yud 10, Resh 200, right? Aleph is 1 and Hey is 5. So what do you have? You have to double Gematria Gehenom. To teach you that someone who doesn't have Yirat Shamayim, he has 2 Gehenoms. The sages tell us there's 2 Gehenoms. There's Gehenom of ice and there's Gehenom of fire. And there's Gehenom of snow. Right? So those who cooled off their desire to perform mitzvot, you were supposed to have a fire for mitzvah, and you cooled it off, you were lazy. So you go to fire, the Gehenom of ice, of sheleg, right? And then there's a Gehenom of fire for those who had a fire for averot. So they have to go to Gehenom of fire. So, ba'eshu b'mayim. But that's why a lot of the Mekubalim, they used to do gilgulei sheleg, right? They used to roll in the snow. Why? Because they didn't do a positive mitzvah, so they want to do tikkun. They don't want to go and suffer in Gehenom, so they do it here. They get the suffering here, kapara here, and not over there. So the Gemara says, the fires of Gehenom do not rule over Torah scholars, right? Rabbi Zino used to check himself, put his hand in the fire in this world, and he said, doesn't burn him, that's a sign. In Gehenom, it's also not going to burn me. So the Gemara says that when Elisha ben Avuya passed away, they said in Shamayim, he'll not even go to Gehenom, and he will not go to Olam Haba. So he's not going to be judged in Gehenom. We can't because he studied Torah. And we can't put him in Olam Haba because he did Averot. So Rameir says better that he should be judged in Gehenom and then be able to go to Olam Haba. And he says, you'll see, Rameir says, when I pass away, you'll see the smoke will come out of his grave, meaning he went to Gehenom. And the Gemara says that's what happened. So Elisha ben Avuya was a Tana who went against off the derech. He went against Hashem. So if the fire, the of Gehenom cannot go on a Torah scholar, so how did he go to Gehenom? How did the smoke come out of his grave? So the Ben Ish Chai says in Gehenom there's different departments of Gehenom. One of fire, one of smoke, one of snow, one of hail. So the Torah scholars are not judging the one of fire; they're judging the other one. They're judging the one of smoke. He says another way to explain is that the Gehenom of fire does not touch Torah scholars. It says it means it doesn't turn them to ashes. Right? Only the wicked are turned to ashes. But the Chachamim, they will not. No, they will be in Gehenom, but they won't be in the total judgment that usually a person gets. So you see that there's many different types of punishments over there, and a person has to think about these things before he does Averah. The Gemara says whoever mocks the words of the sages is judged with boiling excrement. He'll be dipped in boiling excrement. So number 2. So the fires, the Ben Ish Chai says the fires of Gehenom burn somebody according to his wickedness. If there's somebody who's made fun of sages, so what happens? He'll get boiling excrement. Then when he comes out, they don't wash you. So there's a tremendous smell. So even in Gehenom, nobody will want to be next to you. There'll be such a smell. He says that's what it means, that because he mocked the sages is supposed to bring everybody close to him. And you made it, everybody went away from him because you mocked him. So now everybody's going to want to be away from you. You're going to have this smell. That's why Tosafot says, the place the Baal Tshuva stands, the Sadiq doesn't stand. So many explain the Baal Tshuva is higher. But the Tosafot says, no, the Sadiq doesn't want to sit next to the Baal Tshuva because it smells. He says that the Averot that he did in the past, he has to clean it first. Until he cleans it, so it's going to have a smell. So it says, in the Gemara Sechar Rosh Hashanah, we'll do one more. He says the heretics and the traitors Gehenam ends, but they do not end, and their faces become like the bottom of the pot. That's the Gemara Sechet Rosh Hashanah. So it says there's a Gehenom that usually everybody goes to, and there's an end, right? The minhag is that we say Kaddish 11 months, we stop for 1 week, and then we continue till the end of 12 months, because we don't want to say Kaddish 12 months straight. The Rama says, because we don't want to show as if he stayed in Gehenom the whole 12 months. We don't want to say that he was a sinner, so we have a minhag to stop. But usually at 12 months it ends the Gehenom. But for the traitors, the people who went against the Jewish people, and the people who were heretics, they denied the God, denied Torah. So over there, the Gemara says his personal Gehenom doesn't end. Why? He says because there's another Gehenom he gets. It says their faces become like the bottom of a pot. When a pot is on the fire, what's the bottom? The bottom gets hurt the most, right? It gets ruined the most. It gets the blackest and the hottest. The bottom. It says when a wicked person burns a Gehenom, they go and they blacken their face. Because the Gemara says that in the future, when we go to Gan Eden and Gehenom, you're going to be able to see the sins of a person on his face. Right? So whatever you did, everyone's going to be able to see it, right? And understand right away what you did. So therefore, their face will be like the blackened, like the pot, because their face is going to be everything written what they did, and you're going to see what they did. So therefore, they're going to have not just the Gehenom of the fire, Gehenom of embarrassment. The embarrassment is the worst. That's why it says in Pirkei Avot, it says that the person has to, what was it? He has to remember where you went, where you came from, where you will go, and and who you're going to give din and cheshbon, right? So over there, the Ben Yonah says you should know who you're going to give din and cheshbon, judgment and calculation, and he says that the hardest part of that din, of that judgment, is the busha. He says the embarrassment. You're going to see all the averot is one thing, but the embarrassment, and that embarrassment never leaves, because neshama is ruchani. Only we're in gashmiut, when we're physical, so we get angry 2 days before, it goes away. You were jealous 2 days before, it goes away. Your neshama, the body forgets. Neshama never forgets. Like Mana says, the neshama learns something one time, never forgets. So the busha that a person will have in Olam Abad, that everybody will see as averot, it'll never go away. That initial embarrassment, you're going to be feeling exactly the same, like the first time, every single time. So it says that's why their Gehenom never ends. So we should be zocheh to learn this, not get depressed. Learn this, and remember to guard ourselves, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Scary.